Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you might recognize from the thumbnail for this video that this is my series in which I use decks to help me unpack a central message from the larger spread that I read earlier in the week. So I've already done that, and I'm in the middle of my deep dive into the Lenormand system, so my first larger spread of the week is a Lenormand Spread. And this is a response to that spread. So if you have not already seen that first spread, I will put a card up here so that you can click on the card and hop on over and watch that video and then come back to this one, because I think it's helpful. If you see the spread that this card is responding to, that these cards are responding to, it'll make more sense. So do that. And you don't have to watch all of these videos in one sitting. If it's too long for you, you can watch them in bits and pieces. It's okay. Yeah, there's no YouTube police that is going to go out to your house and pin you down and say, watch this video to the end, right? So do as you please, and then come back and watch this one, because again, I think it's beneficial. Just in case you have watched that video in bits and pieces, or it's been a while, let me just give you a brief refresher to remind you of what it was you saw. Yeah, the title I landed on for that video was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, a little bit corny, a little bit wacky. Yeah, it was "Be Your Best Bear Self," and I landed on that title for several reasons, and if you watch the video, you will understand why. But it was kind of a reflection of and a reframing of the first card of that spread, which was the Fox card. And when I added up all of the cards, so when you read Lenormand, there are playing card inserts, or there are playing card associations. And so if you add up all those playing cards, you can get a number. And that number will point to one more Lenormand card, which could give you like the theme or the atmosphere that this spread is laying in. And the card that I got from adding up all the playing cards was card number 15, which is the bear card. So that's another reason. It was a reaction to the way I framed the idea of the Fox card, as well as the overarching milieu of the spread, which was the bear. So "Be Your Best Bear Self," yeah, was the title. So we're reacting to that spread, not the title, the spread. And so I lay out these cards, and that spread seemed to be telling us what? Telling us to move from perhaps a necessary way of approaching the world as being the one who thinks outside of the box, who is clever, who is perhaps crafty. And we want to move into the fullness of our maturity, of harmony, of balance, of sensuality even. But yeah, our purity, our uprightness, our virtue. And we got a path of how to get there. An abundant path, right? So these cards are either going to distill that information alchemically, and I'll say why I chose that word deliberately in just a moment, or it's going to add another layer of information. And we'll see how it goes. I haven't read this spread yet. I've looked at it and I've thought about it, but this is the time of actually reading the spread. So, friends, what am I going to do? I am going to show you a photo of the spread, and I'll show you the question I ask every week. And I'll discuss with you what that spread generally means, which decks are being used, and what those positions of the cards indicate. And then we will break that spread down into its two major components, and we'll read those two major components together. Are you all ready, friends? Here's this week's spread. Friends, do you know the decks I'm using in this spread? I think I have decided that this lunar cycle is going to be my Robert M. Place lunar cycle. I think I'm going to just keep myself limited to Robert M. Place decks for this lunar cycle, and I think I can do it. Yeah, I think I can do it. So, I've got enough of his decks. Just saying. I love his work. So the 3 cards you saw above were from a tarot deck called the Alchemical Tarot Revised. And I think this is from the 5th edition. There's a 6th edition published now, I think. And so I'll put a link in the description box below if you want to go and order that. But I think I've got the 5th edition. It might be the 4th. But anyways, so I've got one of the editions. It's a wonderful deck. It's like, it's scenic. It's not Terre de Marseille. It is alchemically structured or based. So there's alchemical information within that. So that's why I said we want to distill, we want to alchemize the message, perhaps. Yeah. But it's not really a Smith-Waite deck either. It's not a Smith-Waite knockoff or a clone or even entirely based on the Smith-Waite system. Nor is it Terre de Marseille. It lives somewhere adjacent to all of that. It's less Terre de Marseille, I would say, and more Smith-Waite, but not exactly either. Yeah? Although there are similar elements, there are differences. So, there are those 3 cards. Beautiful. I'm not reading them positionally. I'm not reading them positionally. I'm reading them as a story. Just so you know. And then the 3 cards below are from an oracle deck that I use here a lot. It's the Belen Oracle. It's an astrology-based oracle, which I like. It's a woodcut print deck, so it works beautifully with Terre de Marseille, but I also think it works well with this deck by Robert M. Place. Yeah? So that's why I chose it. And if you've seen this channel before, you'll know that I've used this Oracle Belen a lot. And if you want to order the deck, you probably still need to go through Amazon France to get your best price. So I will have a link to the Amazon France page for this deck. You can order it from anywhere in the world. I did. And they will ship it to you. But the ordering place would be France, I believe. So that will be in the description box below. So friends, what are we going to do? I'm going to break this spread down into its 2 major components. Again, the 3 cards above, I'm going to read like a story. I'm going to read semi-directionally, I guess, but yeah, we're going to read from left to right. I'm just saying. Now, the 3 cards below, I decided they each will be modifying the card above. So after we read the 3 cards above, I'll show you an image of the 3 cards below, and then we will refer to the tarot card above as we read the oracle below. Does that make sense? God, I hope it does. So, friends, first, let me show you those tarot cards right now. Friends, I just got a gush. I love Robert M. Place's decks. His artwork is beautiful. And you saw, from left to right, we had the Hermit, the Knight of Swords, and the Emperor. Yeah? Now, if you don't know this deck, and you only know Smith-Waite, or you only know, Terre de Marseille, we probably all would recognize the Hermit right off the bat, right? The Emperor, maybe not so much, maybe a little bit, maybe not so much. The Emperor in this deck reminds me a little bit, just a little bit, of the Besançon, where the Emperor is... No, wait a second. No. Besançon. The Emperor, it's not the Emperor, it's the Pope and the Popess that are replaced by Jupiter and Juno. So, no. Anyways, yeah, this Emperor is very different from other emperors, right? There's a very sexual, very a beauty. There's beauty in this male figure for the emperor, a young emperor too, which is nice. The one that's the most difficult perhaps to recognize would be the Knight of Swords until you see the title below, because there's not a horse there. Dude's got a sword, but we're really focusing on the dragon beneath and the shield, I think, rather than the sword to me. The things that jump out to me when I see this card are the shield and the dragon. The sword seems important for what the knight is doing, but not the object that catches my eye so quickly. Does that make sense? So, anyways, we're going to read from left to right. We're going to start off with the Hermit card. Beautiful Hermit card. Look at this gorgeous thing. We see the raven or the crow. The raven on the... Oh no, Robert M. Place says it's a raven. So the raven on the shoulder of the hermit. We see the Ouroboros of the dragon eating its own tail up in the sky, right? Giving us the idea of cycles, of eternity even, infinity, of divine power. Oh no, it's not a dragon, it's a snake. Yeah, the snake eating its own tail up here, the Ouroboros. Might be a little dark for you to see. We also have, no, we don't see any other alchemical symbol or sigil here on this card. But what is the hermit? So for me, the hermit is the one who reflects, who thinks about what has happened, who reflects on experiences, ideas, thoughts that they've had. Sorry, my voice is starting to go. The hermit is perhaps doing this in isolation, detached from society. Yeah? There's an idea of contemplation and retirement. It could be leaving work, but retirement, like retiring from society, taking a step back and a step away to have some space, to do the contemplation, to do the reflection, to reflect, to contemplate. Yes? The hermit, him, her, themselves could be a guide or a therapist. And the hermit sheds light upon the past to reflect and to gain wisdom to go forward into the unknown future. Yeah? So reflecting the light on the past and moving into the future is one way to consider this card. There's a little bit of humility here. There's a careful examination of ideas and situations, of self, even self-examination, to get wisdom. And remember, from the Lenormand Spread for this week, wisdom was where we want to end up. So we want to perhaps follow the path of the hermit. And according to Robert M. Place, this hermit is following the steps of the Anima Mundi. You see the footprints in front of the hermit down here? Yeah, those footprints. This hermit is following the footprints, and those footprints, according to Robert M. Place, is the Anima Mundi, the world soul, the soul of the world. So we as hermit follow the soul of the world, follow the Anima Mundi, the soul that enlivens the world and gives form to spirit. Yeah? The raven on the shoulder of the hermit indicates the nigredo. And the nigredo is the blackening. It's the first stage of alchemy. And it can refer to the dark night of the soul. Like a raven can be a symbol for the dark night. And I don't mean like the Knight of Swords, but rather night, N-I-G-H-T, the dark night of the soul, as was indicated or described by Saint John of the Cross. Yeah? From Spain. San Juan de la Cruz. Yeah? Talks about the dark night of the soul and was the first one to really formulate that idea of the darkness that we can sometimes inhabit when searching for the light of God. It could also be the descent into the unconscious, to discover the whitening, the light of God above. We dive deep into the unconscious, and in that darkness we then look up and we can see the shining light of the divine, and then we rise back up. Right? Does that make sense? So that's part of the work of the hermit as well. That's the alchemical work of the hermit, as we follow the path of the Anima Mundi. And that was indicated, I believe, although there were indications of social interaction which will come later. Don't worry, we're going to get to that in just a little bit. But the next card, we move into what? Into the Knight of Swords, which is, you see this figure battling this red dragon, right? Battling the red. And the knight is white, and the dragon is red. And so we get this idea. In alchemy, instead of like in the yin-yang, in the, the yin-yang symbol, in China it's black and white, in Korea it's red and blue, but in China it's black and white. That idea of concepts of opposites, of active, passive, right? In alchemical terms, those colors are white and red. The red king and the white queen. Those are the directions of the spectrum that are to be united and to be alchemized to get the Philosopher's Stone. And so here we have the white knight and the red dragon, right? That symbol of white and red. Here they're in battle, they're in conflict. So there's a little bit of a problem here, but it might be a necessary step to get to where we want to go, right? Because the alchemical process is not all, let's melt everything down and things will just naturally, quietly, smoothly form at the bottom. No, there's boiling, there's fermentation, there's putrefaction, there distillation, and then breaking things apart and burning things up, and then it's a very, perhaps, conflict-filled process. So this could be part of that. That could be the idea of that. Yeah? Does that make sense? So what do we have here? We've got the knight fighting. So this is action, intellectual action, but action. Maybe impulsiveness, maybe defending one's beliefs, perhaps, but I think it's more attempting to make a leap into the unknown. Remember, the hermit was moving into the unknown, perhaps at a slow pace, reflecting on the past, but now it's time to leap into the unknown. With our experimental intellect of science, silence, and emptiness. Yeah, the hermit moved us into perhaps the unconscious and the dark and the silence, and within that silence, and from that silence, and from that emptiness, we are ready to leap into the unknown. And sometimes it could be the path of like universal love. It could be fighting for a spiritual cause. Yeah, ready to give testimony. Standing up for what we believe in, for what we see as the truth. But also being ready to leap forth from that void, from the darkness that we've gone in to explore as the hermit. We leap forward with clarity, with action, with impulse, with our impulses, with new ideas, with experimental intellect. And we move into what? We move into our emperor, naked, here in the world, right? With our eagle. We had a raven on our shoulder as the hermit. Here we've got a full-grown eagle on our hands. I was going to say at our control, but this relationship is not control. This is a partnering, I think. Right? Like a familiar. Our buddy, our eagle buddy, who is powerful and strong, right? And who is the emperor? The emperor is power. The emperor is structure. The emperor is authority and our ability to make order and law. Yeah, it's our rational mind, being able to be candid, but also secure. Now we're rooted in matter. This is card number 4 of the major arcana, right? So there's that structure, the fourness, the being rooted in the material. Practical even, with order and authority, powerful and structured. Now on this image, Robert Place is conceiving the Red King, which I just mentioned, right? Here it looked like the male figure, the king figure, is the one in white, but it could be the White Queen, suited up in armor, battling the male dragon there down at the bottom. But here we've got the male king standing up full and strong and proud, not like an animal, but as a developed human, right? And this alchemical symbol is air separating from solution. So our thoughts are rising up. Thinking, authority, intelligence rises up from the unconscious waters. Yes? So that we've got an interesting path here, right? The hermit, perhaps, went down into the unconscious, followed the Anima Mundi, and in that void, and discovered her there, experimental intellect, and is ready to rise up out of the unconscious, out of the dark night of the soul. And here we come up, right? We have risen above the waters with our authority, with our intelligence. Can you see that path? Now the Lenormand Spread did not really seem to point to diving down into the unconscious. This seems to be perhaps another layer of that same path of moving from our cleverness to our maturity. Here we're moving from our hermit to our emperor. Yeah, diving into the unknown and rising up with allowing our impulses to propel us up and out into the light, into our power, into our authority, into our maturity. Yes? Good path, good additional information to that Lenormand spread that we read this week. Now, we've got 3 cards in the Oracle section. Let's dive down into the waters of those Oracle cards and see how they inform the Tarot cards above. Are you all ready for that, friends? Here are those 3 cards once more. Friends, you saw from left to right, the 3 cards were card number 30, which is the Amphora. Do you know what that is? That's the vessel that is there with the cup and the small chalice, the large chalice and the small chalice. The vessel that was there is an amphora. The next card was the owl. That was pretty clear. And then the next card was the lyre. Lyre is the instrument, right? Usually Apollo is shown playing a lyre. And that doesn't mean somebody who tells a lie, a liar, but the instrument is a lyre. Yeah? Okay, so we went from 30 to 42 to 25, and you saw that the progression of astrology was from Venus to Jupiter to Venus again. So they're all beneficent cards. I mean, beneficent planets. Jupiter is the great beneficent, and Venus is the lesser beneficent. So there we got that, right? And we begin with the first beneficent, the Amphora. And the side title for this card is Le Table, which means table. And an amphora is a symbol of liquid of plenty. Yeah, life itself. The gift of immortality even. Yeah? It sustains and gives reason to gather and celebrate. Yeah, it sustains the gathering and the celebration, and it gives reason to gather and celebrate because it's usually full of wine. So you got this amphora full of wine, and that's the reason people get together to celebrate with that, or for that wine, with that wine, and it also sustains the celebration and the gathering, right? The wine of fertility, the wine of life. For Bélin, this is the card for socializing, gathering, and entertainment. Why is that significant in this spread? Well, so this is what's beneath the Hermit card. And you might think these two are entirely and exactly opposite. And the Lenormand spread this week seemed to point towards our social interactions, and those being beneficial for us. Now, we don't want to choose the party entirely. We don't want to go out and party, but we do want to engage with perhaps on new groups of people, especially if they're inviting and welcoming of us. We want to not get involved, not play along. We want to join that group. So what does that mean for the Hermit? I think it means that, yes, we do want to join the group indicated here, but also make sure that we retire from interaction so that we can reflect on what's going on and we can process what's happening. We don't get so enraptured by, or we don't immerse ourselves completely. We don't let ourselves be completely absorbed by the group. We step back and we retire from the group and we process and we assess and we reflect, and then we engage, and then we step back and we process, reflect, assess. That makes sense, yes? I'm also reminded that in the fish card from the Lenormand spread, we also got that idea of the unconscious and things that might arise from the unconscious, which this spread also seems to be indicating, which our success was arising from things popping up from the unconscious once we've laid the groundwork, right? So that is also indicated in this spread, I think, fairly strongly. Now, the sub-astrology for this card is the moon. Yeah, which gives us limitations of cycles. Festivities are limited in time, perhaps. But because the next card is a Jupiter card, it's not a short period. We've got some expansion going on here. Now that time can expand somewhat. The party can grow, perhaps. Now the next card, that Jupiter card I was mentioning, is the owl. Which is what? The side title for this card is Sagesse, which is wisdom. Wisdom, right? Wisdom. And the owl is the bird of the moon. Let's see, it's this direction, right? Okay, so the sub-astrology, each one of these cards has a secondary astrological association to each one of them. Sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's Venus and Venus. But the sub-astrology for both of these cards is the moon, right? So we've got that going on. And the owl is the bird of the moon, of seers, and the gift of sight. We got the idea of synchronicities in the clover card from the Lenormand spread. So the bird is the one who's able to see those synchronicities, those things that pop up. And the colors of this bird are the colors of the purity of mind. Really? I guess so. Yes, the colors are purity of mind. The owl is also crowned, right? So we have that divine golden crowning of ourselves, of our connection with the divine here too. So the owl for Belen is wisdom and reason, finding the right path. Crossroads, we will find the right path. It's okay, yeah? Making the right choice. The crossroads from the spread earlier will make the right choice. It asks for careful thinking and reflection, but we got that down. And this card is doing what? It's modifying this card. So, we want to be careful of impulsive tendencies. We want to reflect, as indicated in this card, even though we are moving into the unknown, we're leaping out of the unconscious, we want to reflect, we want to be wise, we want to carry our wisdom into the unknown. And we will find the right path, we will make the right choices. Now the sub-astrology again for this card is the moon, which gives us our unconscious that allows Jupiter to make the best decisions with reason and intuition. So the moon in this card helps us integrate both reason and intuition as we make our choices. Good thing to keep in mind, I think, because that knight wants to leap out of the unconscious, out of the unknown, out of the unconscious into the unknown in a very rational way, in a very conscious way, but we want to make sure that we maintain our ability to gain information from our intuition. Yes? Because our choices will produce growth and life experience. Remember the fish card. Yeah? From the Lenormand Spread. And then we move into the Lyre, which mirrors this card, right? The Lyre. So we got the drink and we got the music. And really that is part of this. We got the drink and we got the music. So we have some festivities that we could engage, we could participate in. But again, we don't want to make the choice of becoming the party animal, right? Enjoy social activities, but we don't become the party animal. We want to move towards our abundance. So what is this? The side title is Plaisir, which means pleasures. The lyre is a symbol of harmony and poetry. It has 8 strings, which could indicate marriage, but also could be marriage between Mother Earth and Heaven. So we've got the marriage of Father, Mother, Red King, White Queen. Now we join those opposites. We're doing the alchemy in this card. So this is a card for the arts, making life entertaining from sensual pleasures to having fun. Remember the lily card, sensual pleasures. That's where we're moving towards, in addition to our maturity and our virtue. From the Lenormand Spread earlier. The sub-astrology for this Venus card is also Venus. So our emotions and our attractions and all form of pleasures are indicated here. Which is interesting because the card above it is that Emperor card of rationality and structure and rules, and the card below it is pleasure and sensuality and attraction. And the Emperor is generally associated in many traditions, especially the Smith-Waite tradition and the the Thoth Harris Crowley system, is associated with Mars. Mars, Red Queen, Venus, White Queen, Red King, White Queen, perhaps, right? So we want to join both of them. We don't want to be entirely cold rational. We want to have our pleasure, our sensuality, our attraction, enjoying the arts, enjoying a little bit of wine and song together. So just as the hermit and the emperor, they're not opposites, but the hermit retires and reflects, the emperor goes out and organizes and structures and gives rules. We're moving from one into the other, but we also want to soften that path with pleasure and entertainment, with that center groundedness of wisdom, with the owl, right? Reason, finding the right path. We leap into the unknown with the Knight of the Swords, the Knight of Swords, but we use our wisdom to find the right path, and we're clear, we're careful. And that leads us towards our power. But it's not power disassociated from other people. We also join with other people to celebrate. Sensual power? Yeah, maybe. Maybe from or maybe we'll just say following the Anima Mundi. Maybe that's what we'll call this title. Follow the world soul, follow the Anima Mundi. Maybe that's what we're going to call this. Following Anima Mundi, the Anima Mundi. What do you think? Does that make sense? Do you see how this spread adds a layer to and also echoes a little bit the Lenormand Spread earlier in the week? Does that make sense? I hope it does. It makes sense to me. If it makes sense to you, let me know in the comments below. If it does not make sense to you, let me know in the comments below. How would you read these? Did you not see the echoes from the Lenormand Spread? If you did not see those, let me know. And friends, thank you. Thank you for joining me on this journey through this spread. Thank you for doing those wonderful things you do, hitting the thumbs up button, subscribing to the channel, commenting below. All of those things that you do help other people find the channel, so you are a blessing to them. So thank you. Thank you much for doing those. In just a moment, my online tarot reading shop at derekjohnthomas.com. There will be a QR code for that popping up in just a moment. And underneath will be my site address if you want to just type it in. And it's not difficult, right? I just told you, derekjohnthomas.com. Very easy. So take a look at what I'm offering. If you want to order a reading, order a reading. So thank you. And thank you for doing that. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.